Us an impromptu, if I would, press conference regarding transportation. As everyone knows, Governor Malloy, and rightly so, has made transportation a key initiative for the state of Connecticut. And if we're going to open up the businesses and the business environment in Connecticut, we all know that one of the factors we have to open up is transportation, and we have to make that our key component of this legislative year. And the Commissioner Redeker had said, and his quote is behind Senator Witkos, but for 120 years we at DOT have planned improvements based on money that we think will be available from a revenue stream, and therefore we're always struggling to have barely functioning transportation system. What that speaks to is the inability of a DOT commissioner like Mr. Redeker, who is very well versed and an excellent DOT commissioner, to plan for the future for Connecticut, and for that matter, for any commissioner to plan for the transportation system in the future for Connecticut. By securing a predictable and sustainable stream of money, we can end up with a transportation system that Connecticut will have to share with business communities and constituents in the state of Connecticut. We prioritize our progress, is what this is, by indicating that transportation is important enough that we need to bring it to the forefront and deal with it. And I will turn the microphone over to Representative Klarides.
Thank you all for joining us today. You know, on opening day when the governor mentioned his intention to prioritize transportation, I think we all applauded him. I know our two caucuses did, because whether it's at your kitchen table or out to dinner on a Saturday night or just talking on the phone with your friends, each and every one of us has a story. We have a story about how this bridge was being fixed for 2 years, or how the potholes are so bad, you know, your car's out of line every time you go through them, or how you're sitting in traffic for 3 hours. So we all have a story about transportation in Connecticut. Where we likely disagree is how we're going to fund it. Now, I know this is a story you've heard day after day and year after year, whether it's education or transportation or public safety or, you know, fill in the blank. How are we going to fund it? So, as with anything else, we have to prioritize that funding. In the plan you're going to see today, you're going to see us give you a responsible, effective way to fund transportation. Now, I don't know what the governor's going to say next week when he presents his plan, but I think he's hinted a little bit as to the fact that it is going to be on a grandiose scale, on widening 95 from border to border. And he's coming up with these ideas, but he's saying, you guys figure out how to fund it. So we did just that. We're adding $5.3 billion in funding transportation and bonding. We're still keeping $6 billion of what we've had in the past. But we're saving money by going under the soft bonding cap. So we're finding a way to do it in the way each and every one of you do it in your homes. You have to figure out what you need. You have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. And you have to figure out how at the end of the day, we're not in debt for the next 100 years.
So Representative Klarides talked about the fact that normally we have done our transportation projects by using roughly $600 million a year from the transportation fund, the special transportation fund. What we propose to do is prioritize the general obligation bonds such that we yield another $400 million plus a year. And with that, that gives us $1 billion every year to fund our transportation projects. Now, depending on what happens with the federal government, there's an 80% reimbursement rate currently in effect for Connecticut. Now, we all know the federal government's having some issues with that fund, but assuming past practices, that's 80% on $1 billion. That would give the state of Connecticut $1.8 billion of funding for the state for transportation every year that we can use. There is in the information that we gave out to you, apologize for not having a board, we couldn't get it here in time, a proposed general obligation bonding, which we've listed on a chart here. What we talk about, as Representative Claridis indicated, the bonding cap the governor has used was 1.9, where he's gone as high as $1.97 billion a year. This keeps our bonding cap, soft cap, at $1.75 billion, which will yield a savings over 20 years of $300 million. The OFA has indicated a bonding cap needs to stay at 1.7 and then 1.6, and we've done that as well as we've looked at this over 30 years. So when you look at it at the end of the 30 years, our total for transportation without any federal money is $37.4 billion. This could be used to fill the vacancies in the Department of Transportation for engineers and other offices that are open, which would allow more staff to get these projects that are sitting at the Department of Transportation up, running, and out the door. Representative Claridis.
And as Senator Fasano mentioned, we're not telling the administration, DOT, or anybody else which project should be funded, because I can only represent, on behalf of the senator and myself, we are not engineers. We have to rely on the experts to tell us what our priorities should be. That's why part of the reason why we had a transportation strategy board originally, and we think that that should come back to assist the DOT with deciding, with assessing the needs, assessing the safety, assessing which project should be prioritized. Those are tools we should have in our toolbox to enable us to make the decisions. Having said that, we certainly believe that there are certain things that should come first. And our suggestion would be the safety of the citizens of the state of Connecticut. And what I mean by that is, for example, 1 out of every 10 bridges in Connecticut is listed as in very high disrepair. That's a lot of bridges. That's 400 and something bridges. So maybe we should look at those first, because although every one of us would love to say, let's get new rail cars every year, let's build roads, widen every road we have, let's do everything we can. And if we could snap our fingers and have that money, we would do it in a second. But we all know the reality of what we're dealing with. We only have a limited amount of money to spend. So we need to prioritize that money, and we believe that safety should come first in regards to that. Senator?
So in wrapping up, basically what this plan does is secure a reliable, sustainable, predictable stream of revenue in which we can launch a significant and highly needed transportation plan for the future of the state of Connecticut. It also gives us the benefits of hiring people to help execute those plans by virtue of giving sort of boots on the ground, if you would, in the transportation office to get it going. This doesn't pick winners. This doesn't pick losers. It has spending that's prioritized for a stronger, better state of Connecticut. And if anybody has any questions, we'll certainly answer.